Welcome to Midlife Matters. I'm Marie, and each week I'm joined by my friends Julie and Mindy to talk about all the topics keeping women in the middle years up at night. Regret. This is such a heavy word and one that many of us shy away from talking about. But all of us have experienced it in big and small areas of life. Join us as we share ways to turn bad feelings about your past into powerful change for your future. Let's get started. Listeners, today we're talking about regret. And this is such a heavy word and one that many of us shy away from talking about. But all of us have experienced it in big and small areas of life. And today we're sharing some ways to look at regret head on and deal with the emotional fallout that can come along with it. And regret is actually one of the listener topics we've gotten requests for, but we've never really known how to approach it because it's so uncomfortable. Do you think it is a hard topic, Julie and Mindy?
Yeah, it really is. And when I started looking at it, we are basing this off of an article that we read, and I loved the author's perspective that regrets are inevitable. So let's work on optimizing how we deal with them, because we're all human. We're going to make mistakes. So I liked his perspective.
Right. The word itself strikes fear, though. I mean, right off the bat, you hear the word, and it's like, ooh. You do not have a positive reaction to that word, but I really enjoyed the article. I can't wait to talk with you girls about it because I think that there's some really healthy viewpoints we can have looking at it.
Yeah, it was positive.
Yeah. So listeners, I did find an article in one of my favorite magazines, Real Simple, that did a good job of approaching this topic, and we are looking forward to talking about it. And the title of the article was Got Regrets. And then the first line was, maybe that's okay. Learn how to turn bad feelings about your past into powerful change for your future. And I love that because like Julie said, we're all going to have regrets, but how can we use those to make different choices in the future? This is kind of like a positive spin on a negative topic.
Right. Isn't that what we do?
We're trying.
We're trying to encourage you. So anyways, the author says that there are 4 kinds of regret. And I thought this was really interesting because I had never thought about, you just think of them all as one. But just as an overview, the 4 kinds of regret are connection regret, boldness regrets, foundation regrets, and moral regrets. So I think these are going to be interesting topics. The first kind of regret that we're going to talk about is connection regret. And this is failure to reach out to someone you love, the most common kind. And in it, the author used the example of her wedding, and she hadn't invited a loved one to her wedding, and then she later regretted it. And that was this kind of connection regret. And I think that all of us have definitely experienced this. Could you relate to that, Julie and Mindy?
Yeah, I've regretted letting friendships kind of fizzle out. Not like there was no fallout or hurt. It just kind of fizzled out over time, and or not keeping up with people from the past. Like I told you, I recently reconnected with a friend from pharmacy school after 20 years. And I think, gosh, look what we could have had all this time, but we didn't,
Right.
And I know John is so good at this. He keeps up with people he went to kindergarten with, and it's kind of a running joke in our family. Like if we're out somewhere and somebody says, "John, is that you?" We joke and say, "You went to kindergarten with him, right?" And I am just not like that. And he's heard me talk about friends from the past, like that I grew up with. And if one time we were driving in Memphis, kind of doing a little sentimental tour of our old neighborhoods and stuff. And he goes, "Hey, why don't you stop in and see if they're home?" Like somebody I hadn't seen in 25 years. Or give them a call and we could try to meet him, and I'm just, I don't know, like once I haven't seen him, that just seems too scary to, but he would totally do that.
Yeah.
Well, he would have never let it fall through in the first place. So he's always trying to encourage me to reconnect, but I don't know. It's just scary.
Right.
Oh my goodness. Well, I've made so many connections in my life that I have a lot to pull from when I think about this. I don't feel that I have regrets when it comes to, I'll say, my most important earthly relationships. My husband, my children, my parents, my family. But I do feel like I have regretted times where I've been careless with a friend. whether, feeling too tired and thinking, oh, it won't matter if I don't show up to something.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Or not saying goodbye well. There have been certain places that we've lived where we've said goodbye really well. And there are other places where I'm like, just, it's another move. I'm tired of it. It hurts. And I haven't handled it well. So again, just that kind of careless with people that are important, that I do regret, that I want people to know that they are important to me. And so you have enough of those situations and I really question myself with people. And I'm like, this relationship's important. Take it importantly and don't be careless and be intentional. So I do really try to make sure I'm not perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, I know. And I think that, like you said, Julie, like it's those relationships that it wasn't even like we intentionally did anything, but they did just fizzle out. And I do have regret that sometimes, it's difficult to keep up those connections. We recently went back to where we moved from 20 years ago, and I reached out to a couple people and we went to lunch. And at first I thought, well, will we have enough to say? But I promise you, like, you can pick up almost instantaneously with someone you knew 20 years ago, and there's always so much to say. So I think it's more the fear that we need to get over, and then things would come around. And Mindy, even the ones that, like, even if it's not a place where you don't live, I've found that if you maybe just reach out and say, hey, I'm sorry, I felt bad about such and such, and then it seems like we haven't done anything, would you like to get together? It seems like that can just open up some conversation. So maybe I would just encourage people that if you're feeling a regular regret about something and it just keeps coming up in your mind, maybe think about what you could do about it.
Yeah, I remember when we had, I can't remember her name down now, but it was a guest and she had written that book, 10 Things to Tell You. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, yes. Laura Tremaine.
Yes. And she talked about friendships and she talked about this and something she said stuck with me. Like if you have disconnected from a friend and you want to reconnect, like kind of give them permission to just like, we don't even have to talk about where we've been the last 10 years or 5 years. Like, let's just pick up today.
Sure.
And, that works too. You don't have to apologize and explain. Just say, hey, I'm willing to start fresh right now.
Right.
Yeah. And wouldn't you be so open if a friend called you up and said, hey, we kind of lost touch, but let's see how, let's get together. Or how have you guys been? Or, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
That's true.
All right. Well, the second kind of regret was boldness regrets. And these are ones that hurt a lot of times, maybe internally, and maybe we haven't verbalized them out loud a lot, and maybe we don't even really want to say them out loud to ourselves, but it's those regrets that are like, if only I'd taken the chance, what would have happened? And so she used the example of somebody that felt like they had gone to the wrong college and had the wrong major and ended up in the wrong place. And it's kind of like one of those boldness things. How did you guys feel about boldness regrets? Did they make you uncomfortable, or maybe you don't really struggle with that?
This would probably be the one I struggled with the most because the regrets that the things that I regret the most are decisions I made one way or another because I was scared to do it differently. And I hate to think that I didn't do something because I was scared. And that was really true a lot earlier in my life. So I wish that I had been more adventurous when I was younger. I was too serious. And I would say I'm actually pretty adventurous now.
Yeah, I would say so.
But it's kind of that feeling of lost opportunity. Like, look at all that I could have been doing, but I just became adventurous at 45, So it's like the time has passed for me to do a lot of things that maybe I think I shouldn't do now. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, like even skiing, when you talked about your ski trip, I remember the last time I skied, I said to myself, I think this is going to be the last time I ski because I really shouldn't get hurt.
It's rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be rough.
Like I did fine, but I'm like, when should I just put a stop on this,
Right. Well, we do know of a mutual friend whose father was still skiing at like 85 or something.
Yeah, I know. I know. People do it.
So you haven't outlived your time to go skiing, Julie.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
No, I definitely can relate, though. I wonder if all of us would say that we were more bold earlier in our lives. Then you start having kids, and I think that you become less bold
Mm-hmm.
because now you have other people that your decisions could affect. And then as your kids start to leave again and could be okay on their own, you feel more bold again. At least that's
Yes,
how I kind of feel.
That's true because even just traveling when they were young, I thought, oh, we don't need to be doing that. We don't need to be leaving them. And I remember at one point we didn't want to fly on the same airplane because what if
Yeah.
something happened to both of us? You know, so yeah, you
Right.
do think differently about I've got other people to live for. And
Well, maybe I'm shallow or naive, but this is something I don't struggle with.
You
at
don't,
all.
Mindy? Oh, wow. Well, that's good.
I
I'm
knew it.
listening to you guys talk, and I'm like, I'm so opposite on this one. In fact, I'm so opposite that I'm like, should we have slowed down with some of the adventurous things that we decided to do, throughout life? Jobs that we've taken, places that we've gone. And honestly, I've always chosen to live. And I have been scared so many times, but I still remember my 18-year-old self getting married, thinking like, is this crazy? Nobody else does this, or going on a trip with Bryce. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to suck for Abby, and my parents, because she's a mess. She just wants me. She was so young at the time. And I was like, but this is what we need to do. Like it's always, I don't know. I've always, even when I've not taught in the studio for 4 years and it scared me to death. I'm like, I'm probably not great at it anymore, but I'm going to do it and I'm going to get good at it. And so I had the opposite feeling, like, should maybe we have chilled a little and been a little more stable? Like we've been so bold. But then we'll talk about this later. The later part of our podcast helped me handle those feelings.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely. I can see how there would be feelings either way. The next category was foundation regrets. If only I'd done the work. And let's see, what was this one?
Okay, this is me 100%, but I'll let you give the example.
Yeah. This is like putting in the work to make your life more stable, like saving and finishing school and, all those things.
Okay. Yes. So foundation regrets. I don't know if I have a lot of foundation regrets or not. I think I'd probably have more boldness regrets than foundation regrets, but maybe if I hear some from you guys, I'll be like, oh yeah, I've thought of that too. Mindy, you said this was yours. This was the one that you...
Yeah, this is the big one for me.
Okay.
Actually, my family was sitting around the table and Grant asked the question of the 7 of us at Christmas, like, do you have anything you regret? And instantly, the first thing on my mind is I wish I had gotten healthy earlier. I wish I had done the work to learn how to eat right and exercise, because I feel like I lost a good 10 years. I wasn't a very good wife, mom, friend, because I was unhealthy, not physically, but more mentally and spiritually. And it took until I was 36 to learn how to rein that in and allow the Lord to heal that in my life. And I wish I didn't lose the 10 years. I wish I had done that earlier and been Mindy, because I felt like I wasn't even myself. Like I lost myself there for a while.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I remember so well how it felt, and I will never go back because I do regret it. So there is that little...
And you had to get to a place where you wanted to do the work.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have foundation regrets that came to mind, Julie?
Well, it's funny. So you must either lean toward foundation or boldness.
Julie's
because this is, I struggled with boldness regrets, but foundation regrets, not so much, because I was constantly doing the right thing, taking the long vision to make sure my life was going to be more secure, shoring up my future, working hard, making the sacrifices. In fact, maybe one regret was that I was too serious too young. You know what I mean? Like I was doing all that. Like, so I put in the work. But like you, Mindy, one area where I do have a regret is with my health. I wish that I had gotten fit and was eating better and all when I was younger, when I was a mom, because I would have felt a lot better, and I would have been a better example to my children. That's something that I wish I'd done, and I wish I had done a little more of the internal work to better face my fears. Instead of just saying that's just the way I am. That got me through 30 years of just that's the way I am. It's like, no, that is not an excuse. So
yeah I can't think of a lot of foundation regrets, except that sometimes I feel like maybe there were two good choices, and if I would have picked one, then I would have had one way and it probably would have been fine. And then if you choose another one, then that's mutually exclusive of the other. And so I feel like sometimes regret is not so much regret in how it ended up, but regret that maybe you couldn't experience both.
Yeah.
I don't know, because we do have to make choices that sometimes then preclude other things.
Yeah, like being a mom, that's the ultimate, like if you're going to stay home.
Yeah, that's what kind of came to mind.
There's a whole world out there that you've said no to.
Right. Yeah, and it's not that I wasn't willing. I hate that phrase, like willing to do the work, because I feel like it is work to stay at home and raise your family too. It's just a different kind of work. And either way, things could have probably gone okay, but you can't work and raise your family and have the same experience that you would have had if you hadn't worked and raised your family. Those are two mutually exclusive things. And I wanted to have the experience of not working and raising my family. But so, you kind of had to pick one or the other, but then later you're like, well, was it a matter that I didn't want to do the work? Not necessarily. It was just that I wanted the experience of one over the other.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Marie, I remember walking with you and we both were muddling through, should we homeschool or public school?
Homeschool is a different thing, Mindy.
Listen, it was like, am I afraid of homeschooling? Am I not willing to do the work? And I came down to no, I don't want to.
Yes, that's the thing. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I mean, we both tried it. We tried it, and it wasn't. I mean, if my kids had needed me to homeschool, of course I would have done the work. But I didn't love it. So because I didn't love it, I wasn't willing to keep doing something that I didn't love.
And again, I was a better person for them to not homeschool them.
Right.
I was actually a better mom. I hate to say that. But even now, though, it doesn't scare me. Like even the boys, I'm like, hey, if you want to be homeschooled, come on home, Right. We'll do it. But I have heard women say that really struggle with either working and staying home, that issue. And I've also heard women, even down to breastfeeding or bottle feeding. And these could be major issues during those seasons of your life that you really lose sleep. Also women that struggle with, should I have another kid? And I've heard older women say, I should have done that, or we should have had another one, or, and it's just bizarre to me to think about that. But I mean, gosh, as we get older, there's so many things that enter your mind. You're like, oh yeah, we could have done that, At the time though, you probably can't see a way. So I don't know.
Yeah. I've heard people say those regrets too. And maybe some of the strategies that we talk about later would help someone deal with that regret.
Yeah, because maybe what you're wanting is that outcome, but you couldn't have done what it took to get there at the time. I mean, you might have made the best decision at the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
All right. Well, the fourth category was moral regrets. If only I'd done the right thing. And this is the least common type, but the most painful and complex because we violated our values. Moral regrets. I mean, I do have, things that I wish I would have maybe done differently, but I don't have any huge moral regrets. He uses the example in the article of like having an affair. So I didn't have anything that rose to that level, but I think we can all look at things that we wish we wouldn't have done in hindsight.
Yeah. I have one that kind of creeps up every once in a while, and it's something that, and I've read that sometimes a lot of things like this come from way back childhood.
Oh.
And it was just not standing up for someone that needed it. And I remember specifically it was in the 5th grade, and I was at a new school. And so I was kind of this was a group of kids that had been together since kindergarten. So I was the new one. And this one girl in the class was constantly made fun of. I mean, in a terrible way. And I remember just not feeling secure enough to step in because I was new. I was shy. I was on the outside already. And that bothered me for years, that I should have done something. But, so, but I did learn from that.
I guess if I was going to go back to like my pre-adulthood, there probably are a lot of different things that I regret. But I was kind of going like from the time I got married till now.
Where he's like, I'm not even dealing with that back
with you, though. If it sticks with you, it's
right.
It's still a regret if it's hanging around.
No, it's true. It's
Julie,
true.
I can relate with that so well. I actually can picture a woman sitting on the curb outside of a Publix when my family was on vacation and she was crying. And I had that in my spirit, go check on her. We had all 4 kids, somebody was crying. We had a basket full of stuff, ice cream that was going to melt. And I just thought, I just don't have time. I can still picture that woman sitting on the curb crying, thinking, and I still regret that I didn't go check on her. So I do understand that. Like,
it's not like a huge regret, but it's just this kind of nagging thing that's there. Like,
I mean, that was probably 20 years ago. That situation happened, and I still see it. I can still see it in my mind.
Yeah.
Well, when we think about regret, I love that this article just doesn't leave us like, oh, okay, name your regrets. Then he goes on to talk about, or she goes on to talk about steps to make regret for good in your life. And the first one she says is admit it. Put your feelings into words. Unload on a friend or a journal. Language turns emotions into thoughts, which are easier to analyze. And for me, this is so true. If I just have a nebulous, kind of anxiety-ridden, sick feeling in the pit of my stomach about regret, that's not going to let me move forward. But if I talk about it with someone, or I write it out, or I actually name what happened, that can help.
Yeah, we've mentioned that before. It's a good place to start. Name it so you can deal with it. Because just a generalized anxiety, you just feel mired down. Like you don't even know where to start.
Right? Because regret can easily lead to feeling guilty and feeling shameful. And those are not healthy mindsets or ways to live. And it really can be, it can keep you from living today, something that happened 20 years ago. And so the things that are weighing, if you can somehow bring them to the forefront and talk or write it down, like even when I think of the lady from Publix, instead of feeling like a horrible person, you messed up, Mindy, I can't believe you did that. I can say, Lord, like, forgive me for not going when I should have gone. And I pray for her and I have to let it go. But see, by giving her to the Lord, I'm actively doing something about those guilty feelings of not going to her.
Yeah. And you can pray for other opportunities, like.
Yes. Help me have eyes to see and courage to go.
Yeah. What about this next one? Nail down the why. Why do you regret it? And that seems maybe obvious on the surface, but if we really ask ourselves why we regret it, it might reveal some things about it to us. I was thinking about, do you regret it because you think other people think you were stupid for that decision? Do you regret it because somebody else is still hurting because of your decision? Do you regret it because, I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot of different reasons you could regret something, and on the surface, it
like,
may
what
not
did
be
it
obvious.
keep you from that you really want? Do you still want it, or maybe not?
Yeah. So nailing down why you regret it. Another one is look forward. You can't alter the past, but you can take steps to bring your life closer to your if only. And I think this is a really important one. I can't change decisions I made in the past, even ones that were very wrong. But I could make a decision to not make that decision again, like to live differently going forward.
Yeah. And I think, in our culture, we're so driven to be happy and positive 24/7, but negative emotions are good. Like they can lead you to change and transform if you know what to do with them. So I think dealing with the negative emotions is a way to learn how to make changes in the future. I mean, like even if you're going to make a New Year's resolution, it might be a good thing to look back and like, well, what regrets did I have over last year? That could help you come up with your resolution. Like, what am I going to do differently based on your regret?
Julie, I'm glad you brought that up because the time frame of this is interesting. Like I was thinking, we have regrets from a lot of years ago. We have regrets from last year. I have daily regrets that help me live better the next day. And so I do try to sit down in the morning and journal and think about the day before. I try to remember what God did yesterday. And I try to look for those blessings and to have gratitude, but also to list the things that I don't feel comfortable with, that I feel anxious about, I feel fearful about. But also, if I'm not happy with how the day went and I regret it, then I'm like, well, the Lord's mercies are new every morning. I'm giving you this day and help me not make those same decisions today because I didn't like how it felt yesterday.
And isn't that like what we would tell a friend? Her next one is practice self-compassion. And I think of all the things that my kids come to me about, like things they wish they hadn't said, things they wish they hadn't done, decisions they wish they hadn't made. And it's like, okay, I mean, maybe that wasn't a good decision. Okay, that was a hurtful thing to have said. But like, what can we do going forward? You can apologize. You can try to make amends as the best you can, but then you can also use it as a learning lesson to not do that again.
Yes.
But we're so much harder on ourselves.
We really are. And it's so easy to ruminate on what we've done wrong. Even that if nobody else knows, it's easy to remember the one word or the one look or whatever. And everyone else could be oblivious to the battle going on in your mind. But to be able to forgive yourself, like, okay, yeah, I would tell you, let's make some different decisions.
Right.
It's a new day. It's a new day. Got a blank slate. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe even things that not so much mistakes like moral mistakes, but just like you said, Marie, making a choice one way or another. Instead of regretting and wondering how life might have been different, realizing that all your experiences and decisions have shaped you. And, are you happy with the person you are now? Well, you were shaped by all those experiences. You would be a different person had you lived that other path, And I think we can kind of makes ourselves crazy thinking about all the what ifs,
Yes.
instead of just being content with what we did choose. If it wasn't morally wrong,
Right. Well, another thing that we can do to help us make regret for good is to reframe it. And we've talked about reframing things before on Midlife Matters. This author says, try an at least statement. An at least statement can help you find the positive. She said that you can think about the people you've met along the way and you can say, well, at least I have them. Or another perspective shifter is self-distancing. Consult with the you of 10 years from now. You may realize you've been blaming yourself as a way to feel in control of the uncontrollable. I don't know. These were a little hard. These examples were a little hard for me. Did they make sense to you guys?
Well, I think that consult with yourself 10 years in the future would be like, I don't know, like, should I buy this green car or this red car? Like, well, in 10 years, are you really, that's not going to matter,
True.
But maybe should I call this person and apologize? If you think this is still going to be bothering me in 10 years, then it's probably important to do.
That's a good point.
So I don't know. That's what I took away from that. And I don't know, with reframing it, I read a little deeper into this from, I think the article referenced a book, and I found that book and read a little bit of it. And they said that regrets that are over things you didn't do seem to have a more negative effect or a lasting effect. So like if you said, I regret never finishing school, or you said, I regret dropping out of school, like dropping out is an action, but just never finishing is a I didn't do. Like changing it to an action is maybe makes you feel like, okay, I made that decision. I can make a new decision. Like I can go back to school. I don't know. Does that seem true to you? Like, do you regret things you didn't do more than things like even just reframing it into more of an action, flipping it from I didn't do this, but I did do this kind of statement.
Right. I also liked, and it kind of comes up in this example, I also liked how they said that we're most likely to compare ourselves only with those who are flourishing. So like we might say, okay, well, I wanted to be a lawyer and I'm going to compare myself to the person of the head of the NAACP because surely that would have been me instead of the lawyers in my hometown who actually hate their job. You know what I'm saying? Like we always think that we would have reached the pinnacle of success in our field and be on TV and, you know, live in the high life instead of, well, we'd probably be just like every other accountant who's not really loving their job. You know what I'm saying? Like we just, we tend to compare ourselves against the best case scenario that could have ever happened.
Yeah. It's like comparing our worst self to someone else's best. And it's just not, you're not comparing apples to apples.
Right. And I do that. I mean, we can say this a million times and I still fall into that kind of thinking.
Oh, yeah.
So I appreciated her bringing that up.
That is
well, that kind of leads. I think there was one more question was just, is it even a regret? And I think that's kind of what you just said, how that it falls into that category. Like, and I think this was the best question to ask for me because it is easy to look at things that other people are doing and you're just seeing the outcome or the result and you like it. You know, you've painted this rosy picture in your mind of their life. Or better yet, social media has painted this picture, but you really aren't thinking about what it took to get there, the sacrifices, the work, or even would you be interested in that? Like, you're just envious of the outcome. But if you really had to do it all over again, would you choose to do that? Probably not. You know, there were probably really good reasons that you steered clear of that path way back when you chose. And I just thought of, this is kind of a silly example, but like when I go to the dentist and I pay a big dental bill and I know that I can only go to the dentist Monday through Thursday because they don't even work on Fridays, I always used to joke, I'm in the wrong field. I should have been a dentist. You know, or in John's hometown, he's from a kind of a small town and one of the nicest, most beautiful homes in the town is owned by a plumber. And every time we drive by it, we were like, oh, we're in the wrong field. We should have been a plumber. Well, in reality, I have zero interest in being a plumber or a dentist. But, you know, you look at the outcome and it's like, oh, they have such a cushy life and they make a lot of money and, you know. Yeah. So I think those kind of illustrate what we're trying to say is it might be just pure envy, not regret.
True.
Yes. Did you have any thoughts on this, Mindy, on the reframing or the is it really a regret?
I've had a lot of thoughts through the whole conversation and I can't remember any of them right now.
Okay.
So we can just keep going.
Okay, I have something else I wanted to say about reframing.
Okay. Because
I didn't mention this earlier on in the types of regret, but I have struggled with maybe even wondering if I should regret my career choice because I'm not using my degree now. I did love pharmacy school. It seemed like it was the right decision. I was good at it. I was valedictorian in my class. But I was conflicted early on when I was trying to decide what career path to go on because I was really interested in artistic things, really creative things, which is not pharmacy at all. So I kind of went with the degree that seemed safest. It assured me of a great job at the end. It was secure. So I don't even know if I should count this as a regret or not. Maybe it was a trade-off. Maybe it's a way of reframing it. Like I didn't make a living doing something that I love that is artistic. but pharmacy school was safe and secure. So, which is totally a way for me to live according to my values. Like, I like security and stability. So I chose something that allowed me to live according to my values. Like, if I'd been an artist, I might have been a starving artist. You know what I mean? Like, I can regret that, but maybe I wasn't cut out for that.
Right.
You
or
know?
maybe you were, and it's a lost opportunity, but since then you've gone on to take different classes and you've gone on to enjoy art in other ways and incorporate creativity into your home
as a
life
hobby,
and,
not a career. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that was kind of a way of moving forward that you could incorporate that desire. And you weren't forced to rely on your income for it, which maybe would have just been way too scary, you know?
Yeah.
I bet if you talk to a lot of creative people, a lot of people would say, like, I felt like doing something more creative as my field or in college, but I was too afraid. Like, the ones that actually go for it, they're really brave. That actually go to school and graduate in that. That's brave.
Yeah.
I have a neat testimony from my daughter of a conversation that we just had. Her dream all through school was to be a labor and delivery nurse. And she graduated and she started living her dream. And within living her dream, she learned that she hated it.
Oh, really, Mindy?
She hated it. Like, she would get really anxious. And I won't go into her whole story, but I just have to tell you about this testimony because she's living this. So her and her husband, her and Joey had a lot of discussions about, well, what should we do? Like, this has always been my dream. This is my degree. I don't love it. And this isn't the life that we want, you know, in the future. And so they took time, sought the Lord, talking with each other, and she put in her notice.
Really?
And
that's bold too.
Very bold. Now, this is huge because that's all she ever thought about doing. And this was an identity crisis. This was letting go of a dream, realizing a dream, and then realizing it wasn't what she wanted. And it wasn't the life her and Joey decided that they wanted now that they were married. And so she put in her notice just before Christmas. She got into another part of nursing, outpatient clinic, and loves it, like thriving, thriving 100%. Her and Joey, like, the further they got away from the decision, from that hard decision, the happier they both got. And she just called me today before we podcasted, and she was able to help a close friend navigate going into labor last night, walking through the signs and all that is involved with having a baby. It reminded her of that she loves it, but that's not what her job needs to be. She could actually help her friend walk through that situation, but knowing that that's not, she never wanted to be in that hospital setting again. And she could come back home and, you know, do her thing. And I think that the reason I'm sharing this, and I know Abby won't mind, because she is praising the Lord for realizing that it was okay to let go of that. It was okay to step away and change dreams and shift courses and make decisions for the life that you want. And she said, it reminded me of why I got out of it, because she physically broke out in hives while she was talking to her friend. And I, you know, that won't always happen, but that was her physical reaction to thinking about L&D again. It was not good. The further she gets from that, she won't do that. But she said, I'm just so thankful because God is going to use that. He's going to use that experience that I had, even though I'm not in that field anymore. And so I just think that God can take every part of you, the creative side, the book side, the school smarts, the street smarts, the, you know, all those aspects, because all of us are such complex creatures. We love to learn certain things. We love to be creative in certain areas. And sometimes it's hard to choose left brain, right brain. And I think the people that are most successful and happy in life are doing a little bit of both. I think that they're touching the things that they love to learn about and they're passionate about there. And then they're touching into their creative side and using that in some form or fashion. And so there really is just a balance to be able to take them both with you and live a fuller life.
Yeah, I've heard people that are into the sciences, because like I just love science. That's all I wanted to study. And I didn't do anything creative, anything in literature. I just thought, oh, that's so unnecessary. But I kept hearing how they wanted well-rounded medical students and well-rounded pharmacy students, and I just didn't have any interest in the humanities. And I've heard someone since explain, like, the humanities are why we do all of that. This is why we want to help people get well. And, like, it's not just the science of it. There's, it's to help people live better and enjoy life and find meaning in life. Like they are all necessary. It is all necessary.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad she found that out now and didn't go through years of misery, because a lot of people aren't brave enough to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It took some boldness.
It does. It does. And I think a lot of times we feel kind of trapped maybe. And so we regret something, but then we don't feel like we can change it. And I think that it's important to remember that there are maybe some steps that you can take to change it, even if it's not an overnight thing. Because otherwise we feel regret and hopeless and stuck.
And I'll say, and don't forget that God can redeem anyone and anything. And so as a Christian, I believe that any situation can be redeemed. And it's not your failure that will rule the rest of your life if you don't let it.
Yeah.
I was actually reading an article this week, and it kind of stuck out because it had the word regret in it. So I read it, and it was talking about how Gen Z's FOMO, fear of missing out, has kind of shifted recently to FOBO, which is fear of a better offer.
Oh.
And they said the average young person, their inner dialogue has kind of shifted from, oh, what if I don't go and they have fun without me, to what if I commit now and then regret it later? So I thought this was interesting, because as midlife women, we rub shoulders with young people all the time, like, even, our own children, or even maybe grandchildren, or you work with people, or for me, I'm around a lot of young people at church. And it said it just explains why you might get texts like this: I'll plan on being there unless something changes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Unless something comes up, plan on me. Yeah.
And, the article was written to provide a little perspective so that we as midlifers don't just roll our eyes and say, kids these days, but maybe try to understand, like, they're not flaky, but they're anxious, that this is the most anxious generation in history. And they might have real reasons for being anxious, but for their sake and for the sake of all of us around them, we can maybe help them see that friendships and relationships do require keeping commitments. There's a reason wedding vows say until death do us part, not, oh, as long as something else doesn't come up.
Right.
And they said one of the ways, like, that we could minister to people is that when you see young people keeping commitments, praise that, encourage that, and express gratitude for that. And to be patient with them. And if you have a good relationship with them, you may have to have a hard conversation with them, like that it hurts people when you can't commit any time to them,
Right.
like maybe just help them see that. I know I'm friends with, I don't know if she's a Gen Zer, she's 28, but she really sticks out in my mind because at church she volunteers in the nursery. She volunteers, she works hard, and she's always good about reaching out to me and saying, when can you meet for coffee? And she sticks to it. And I've almost been kind of surprised because I've noticed my youngest, who I don't think listens to this podcast, it's very hard to get a commitment out of him. Like, what are you doing this weekend? Do you want to come over? Oh, I'll see. It's always at the last minute that he lets me know if he's available.
That's one of my sons. Totally. And so much so that we don't plan on him. Like, even family vacation, that is fun. I have to have a bed ready just in case. But we're not going to know till the very last minute if he's going.
Because there could be a better offer.
Yeah.
So this is a totally different approach to trying to avoid regret, because if I commit
so
and then
it's
something
avoiding
better comes up, then I'm going to,
Right.
I don't want to feel regret. So let me keep all my options open.
Right.
Yeah. But don't you think, I don't know, to
And you
me,
end
that
up
seems like a
regretting.
life of regret because
It
you're never
is.
really doing anything. Like you're
Right.
not, I don't know, commitments bring a lot of fulfillment
They
and
do.
commitments are rewarding. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I do feel like it's a healthy thing that I do when I ask myself, when looking at a situation, I always ask myself, well, will I regret it if I don't go?
Mm.
Or will I regret it if I don't make that commitment?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and kind of that my future self,
Mm-hmm.
will they look back and, you know, be like, oh, I'm not very proud that you couldn't say yes to that or do that or follow
Mhm.
through with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ask myself that often. I think it's actually a healthy question because I
Yeah.
don't want to live regretting that I didn't do the hard work or spend the time or make the right choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, one thing I can take from the Gen Zers, though, in that area is that I think a lot of people our age and older, once we make a decision, we feel like till death do us part on every decision. We can't change it. We're stuck forever. And
True.
I
Mhm.
like that example of, okay, even your daughter, Mindy, like our age group might have said, this is what I went to school for, so I'll put my time in. And how many more years to retirement? You know what I'm saying? Like, but the younger generation is a little bit more willing to say, you know what? It's
Mhm.
okay to pivot.
Right. It's okay to let
Mhm.
go. Mhm.
Yeah. So I think we can maybe learn from each other. Yes, we need to keep some
Right.
commitments. And some other ones maybe aren't dyed in the wool. Like, you
Yes.
know, we could give up
Yeah.
that volleyball league that we dread every week. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's some things that our age group sticks to forever, even if
just
they
for
don't
the
like
commitment.
it. Yeah, just to
Mhm.
say, well, I committed 10 years ago, so I still go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Very true. That's me.
All right. Well, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this episode on regret. I hope that you've gotten some encouragement from it and maybe some tools to change the way you look at some things. We're learning right along with you. And Julie and Mindy, I mean, bring this article up when we're expressing regret to each other because I think we can all use the reminder.
Yeah, it was really helpful.
Yeah. Listeners, if you want to get in contact with us this week, you can find us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast, or you can email us at midlifematterspodcast@gmail.com. But before we go, we want to do I'm a Fan. All right, Julie, what are you a fan of this week?
All right. I have no regrets over my Lange 2-in-1 volumizing brush hairdryer.
I just heard someone talk about this, so please tell me your experience.
Well, my mom got me this back in November for my birthday, so I can't believe I haven't mentioned it yet. But it is the Lange one that she ordered off of their website, and it has a large barrel. There are two sizes. And it's kind of a teardrop shape. It's not round, so your hair does not get tangled. And the shape allows you to kind of get more lift at the roots instead of it just being round. And it I think it has 4 settings. It has a cool setting. It dries my hair really fast, and it's just easier to use one hand. And I thought about you, Mindy, because you mentioned that your hair gets tangled in it because yours is quite a bit longer, but it might not.
Have to try that. Okay.
Yeah, and one other thing I'm excited about is I noticed that Ulta carries Lange. I had no idea they carried their brand because I use a few of their other hair products like the hair lotion and the mousse, and they carry all of that too. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And I have always called it Lang. So I don't know if I'm saying that wrong now. Lang.
I've always called it
Lange,
Lange too, but okay, it's Lange. Okay. Mindy, we
it's
learned something today.
Apostrophe ANGE.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter just asked me to get one with a cool setting for her. So I don't think the Revlon one I have has a cool setting, but she doesn't want the heat on her hair every day.
It's kind of expensive, but my mom got it on Black Friday and it was half price. And I noticed at Ulta, they seemed cheaper. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So don't get sticker shock. Look around. You might be able to find it cheaper.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Good to know. Yes. All right. Okay, Mindy, what are you a fan of?
I'm a fan of stopping doing something that you hate doing.
All right. I mean, that goes right along with the regret episode.
Okay. I used to get my nails done all the time. I talked about that on this podcast.
You did.
I would always get my nails done and my toenails. And but I would dread going and sitting in the chair for the time that it took, the money that I spent. And I made a decision actually in October of last year that I was done. I'm done spending the money. And I knew that I was committing to a couple of months of like my nails growing back out and getting that back under control. And I have been so happy not having to go to the nail salon and not having like getting dip powder and then it cracks or it wasn't done right or, oh, I don't like the color or no, I have been so happy with natural nails and I'm taking care of them myself. And I just have been so much freer by not going to get my nails done and my toenails.
And it frees up time, money.
The time, the money, everything about it. It's just a simpler existence. And I was so ready for it. But I probably went a year thinking, oh, I hate doing this.
Oh, yeah. But that's a long time. I mean, because most people look forward to it if they're doing it, you know.
Yeah, I hated the time commitment like
Me
you,
too,
Mindy. I just
Julie.
didn't want to be there that long.
I'd rather go to a workout class than get my nails done.
Yeah. Well, now you can just do it on special occasions.
So, yes, I've been so much freer with finally just stopping that.
All right. Yeah. And your nails have grown back and
they're back. They're just natural.
Good.
Clean. Yes.
Well, good for you. I'm a fan of something that I don't know if listeners would really know about yet because I didn't know about it. And it's relatively new. Have you ever heard of the Lulu Like New website?
No, tell me.
So a couple years ago in 2021, they did a trial of it. And then in 2022, they kind of launched it. And the reason I found out about it was because my husband bought me a Lululemon coat for Christmas, but I didn't really like the color. And I kind of wanted a longer winter coat. I already have a short one, and I kind of wanted one that was a little longer. So I told him I was going to return that one. And I started looking around for a different coat, and I put in like green, longer winter coat, you know, and that came up on the Lululemon Like New, and I clicked on it. So what happened is that's a color that they've discontinued. So they don't have that color. You can't buy it new anymore. And it was like $100 off buying it off this used website. And it said used like new. And so they'll kind of qualify it. It might be like used good, but this was used like new. And then it said like meaning no wear or blemishes apparent. And of course, they only had one size, but it was my size. And I ordered it. I love it. And I couldn't buy it new, even if I wanted to buy it new, because they don't make it anymore.
So it's kind of like Poshmark for Lululemon.
Yes. And the interesting thing is that you can go on there and about everything is about half off. So I was looking like their leggings are about half off what you'd pay in store. Now it's kind of interesting because you can trade your Lululemon in. And I was noticing that you only get $5 for tank tops. I think it was $10 for shorts. And this person only got $25 for the coat. But then Lululemon turns around and sells it much more expensive.
Oh, my goodness.
But I guess if you're just trying to trade in, I don't know. But I was glad this person had turned in the coat. But anyways, the only downfall of the website is that it doesn't have free returns. So you'd have to pay $7.50 to return something. But I figured on the cost of the coat, and I was pretty sure I was going to like it. $7.50 was worth it to me. Now, if I was buying a $25 tank top, maybe I don't want to pay $7.50 to return it. Maybe I go to the store, make sure that's my size first. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
But if you know your size really well, that's a great website to check out. And it's relatively new. You know, I haven't really heard anybody talk about it.
That's interesting because I have a pair of pants that I absolutely love and they don't sell them in the store anymore. So I might go there.
Yes. And get them at a discount.
Excited.
Yeah.
Mindy's going to be shopping this afternoon.
Listen, I have a new Lulu lover in my family, and it's going to surprise you to find out that it's my 16-year-old son.
Okay.
Because Abby and Joey got him some Lulu shorts for Christmas. Jacob wore them to school and got so many compliments. He's like, he's sold. He loves those Lulu shorts.
Well, they have it. They have the Lululemon Like New website. They have shop for men and shop for women. So
I love it.
All right. Well, Julie, Mindy, loved talking with you today about regret. It seems kind of weird to say we love talking about a topic like regret, but it really was good. I guess that means we can talk about just about anything.
Pretty much.
That's right.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Sounds great.
All right,
Bye,
bye. We're so happy you joined us today. You can find the show notes for this episode at midlifematterspodcast.com. Also, please tell a friend about the show and help them hit the free subscribe button on their favorite podcast app. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Midlife Matters Podcast. That's where we post pictures and stories about all the things we talk about in each episode. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.